The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. Second Book. The Letter of BELICENA VILLCA. 27th Day. As it is known, Dr. Setonal, the sacred book, par excellence, for the Jews, is the Torah, which is essentially composed by the 5 books of the Pentateuch, just as was presented by scribe Ezra, in the 5th century before Christ, but this is the written Torah, Torah Shabbat, which must be considered as a profane doctrine, exoteric, due to its real divine wisdom. Ekma is encrypted in the writing and it can't be interpreted unbeknownst the cryptographic keys of the Kabbalah. Also exists an oral Torah, Torah Shabbat, which treats about these keys, and constitutes the esoteric doctrine of the members of the Kabbalistic chain, Shalshat HaKabbalah. The main theme of the Torah is the Sinaitic revelation. It means the Ekma that Jehovah revealed to Moses in the Mount Sinai, and from this fact must necessarily emerges the Kabbalistic chain, due to Kabbalah comes from the verb kabel, which means receive. However, if the Shalshat HaKabbalah begins with Moses, it must be remembered that he received 2 tablets of the law. The first just contained the revelation of the divine wisdom, Ekma, object of the esoteric doctrine of the Kabbalah. The second was an esoteric synthesis of it and was encrypted as the whole written Torah. According to the Kabbalah, the first tablets proceeded from the tree of life, that's to say, the intelligence of the one, Bina. Meanwhile, the second were taken from the side of the tree of good and evil. The tree of the science of the good and evil, whose fruit at Eden was the cause of the expulsion of Adam from paradise. And Jehovah God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, for knowing the good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and like become immortal. Therefore, Jehovah God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden, to till the ground from whence he was taken. So, he drove out the man. And he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim, armed with flaming sword, to keep the way of the tree of life. Genesis 3. Therefore, the second tablets are destined to those who want the redemption of Adam's sin, but who still remain subjected to him. The first, instead, reveals the Ekma, to whom have elevated themselves above the human condition, to the Adamic state, and deserve to gain the immortality that proceeds from the Bina, the intelligence of the tree of life. They can only be, of course, the highest priests of the chosen people. For this reason Moses veiled the Ekma to the population and he only communicated it to Joshua. Joshua transmitted it to the elders of Israel, and he sealed magically the concealment, in such manner that they only could be found, in the 12th century after Christ, by the Templars, who transported it to Clairvaux. Other prophets, nonetheless, communicated the Ekma, verbally, to the priests of the great synagogue, who continued the Kabbalistic chain. After the captivity of Babylon, there were no more prophets, and Israel and Esdras, the scribe, presented to the Jewish people the exoteric doctrine of the written Torah, based in the second tablets of the law. That doctrine was sustained by the priests of the great synagogue, who then were called scribes, Sufrim, until the advent of the Tannaim, from the 1 to the 3 century after Christ. The great Kabbalists of such period, amongst them, stood out Simeon bar Yochai, named the Holy Lamp, the achieved to transcend the written Torah, and to obtain the Ekma again. Then, the oral Torah was transmitted again by the Amoraim, and Rabbi, until the Middle Ages. Apart from the written Torah, 3 books can be considered as the most important for the Jewish Kabbalists: the Sefer HaZohar, the Sefer Yetzirah, and the Sefer Rekah. The Sefer HaZohar, or Book of the Splendor, was written by Simeon bar Yochai, in the 2nd century after Christ, but the unique existent version since the 13th century, is the translation to Aramaic effectuated by the Spaniard Kabbalist Moses de Leon. The Sefer Yetzirah, or Book of the Formation, is older, and the traditional Kabbalistic chain traces its origin to Abraham. But, by far, the most secret and mysterious book, as the most coveted by the Kabbalists, is the VILLCA, or Book of the Fire Holocaust, which is supposed contemporaneous of Adam and that proceeds, as the first man, from the Garden of Eden. Really, the original book had been written in paradise by the angel Raziel for the instruction of Adam, and its content would be the Onegma. Such mystical book must not be confused with the Book of Raziel, written in the 12th century, by the Kabbalist Elazar ben Judah, of Worms, and based in second-hand news about the tablets of sapphire. According to the rabbinical tradition, the real Book of Raziel, engraved tablets of sapphire, had been stolen from paradise by Rahab, king of the sea, and hurled to the ocean. Then, it would be found by the Egyptians, and would remain for millenniums in power of the pharaohs. Moses would carry with him the Exodus, and he would bequeath it to Joshua, from whom, following the Kabbalistic chain, would come to the King Solomon. He would obtain his famous wisdom, Ekma, by the interpretation of the tablets of sapphire, the Book of Raziel, but, noticing its enormous power, he would hide it in the temple in such manner that only the Galilean Templars would find it within the ruins 21 centuries later. It is clear, Dr. Setonal, at the light of what I have already exposed in this letter, that the tablets of sapphire and the tablets of the law are the same thing. That's to say, that the first tablets, with the Ekma, proceeding from the Tree of Life, are nothing else than the Book of Raziel, given to Moses in Egypt by the priests of the Cultural Pact. The explanation is the next. If we despoil the Hebrew myth from its cultural customs, results that Rahab is no one other than Poseidon, the king of the sea, and legendary ruler of the Atlantis. We arrive in this way to the Atlantis, the Garden of Eden, homeland of the first man. Of such lost paradise came the swarthy Atlantans, founders of the Egyptian priestly hierarchy. After the cataclysm, they had transported to Egypt one of the Book of Crystal that existed in the library of the Atlantis, which contained the register of the construction of the universe, by God the One, Elohim. That Book of Crystal would be the Book of Raziel, in which were engraved the 32 operations executed by the Creator to build the universe, 10 Zephirot, and 22 letters. In other words, the tablets taught, by means of signs, the 22 sounds and measures of the sacred alphabet employed by the Creator One, Elohim, from which comes the Hebrew alphabet, and the cosmic form adopted by him to create and sustain the universe, that's to say, the 10 Zephirot, is what is known as the secret of the serpent. In the age of Moses, the Egyptian priests ignored how to interpret the tablets, but they remembered that the swarthy Atlantans had left them there to be given to the chosen people by the One as a fundament of a divine covenant. Moses received in secrecy, then, the tablets of stone, and he went with his people to the Mount Zion, where Jehovah celebrates, with his lineage, the covenant of fire, Berith, and reveals the Egma of the tablets of the law. The retribution demanded by Jehovah to the chosen people would consist, as it can be concluded from the statements of Bere and Bishar, in the supreme holocaust of fire, Ikeh, from where the book adopts the name that the immortals requested to the 4 priests in the castle of Arasna. In sum, the Templars found the first tablets of the law, the Book of Raziel, which made possible to the Galilean Church the attainment of the Egma, for the College of the Constructor of Temples, and to outbreak the architectonic revolution of the Gothic, or Gaulico. But, even if the mathematical Kabbalistic decoding, it means, Gematrio, the Book of Raziel, permitted to know the secrets of the construction of the cosmos, as certain images that were seen on it, remained incomprehensible for the Cistercian Galileans. Such visions were represented symbolically by the rabbis and Galilean priests, which constituted the book's VILLCA. The figures referred in great measure to the supreme fire holocaust, and titled in Hebrew and Latin, that the Galileans were recently starting to understand with the explanations of Bere and Bishar. Today, Dr. Setonal, it is believed that exists just one exemplar of the VILLCA, which is hidden in a secret synagogue of Israel, to which only the sages of Zion have access. They don't permit to realize copies of it and only authorize to the highest rabbis and initiates of the Kabbalah, a visual contact, being condemned with the ritual death any representation or reproduction after about the observed. However, apart that Israelite exemplar, there is another copy of the Spherica, is the one that was kidnapped by the Inquisitor Richard the Cruel, Richard de Tarseville, that's to say, the father of Leto de Tarsis, and that he brought to America in 1534. It is a quite reliable replica of the Templar book, dated in Granada in 1333, that's to say, after the dissolution of the order, and surely copied from the original that the Gullians and rabbis carried when they escaped from France. From that Grenadian edition, which for centuries has remained in a chest of our house in Tucuman, is the facsimile of the page 12, the attached one for the better comprehension of the descriptions of Beret and Bishar. "Well, priests," exclaimed Beret, while he was examining attentively the image that exposed in the page 12 of the Spherica. "Your order has realized a great work, representing with images the wisdom of the Book of Raziel. But the peril of such ekma, being power of the Gentiles, is huge. Thus, you must avoid the unnecessary copies of this book and submit it to the most rigorous control. What would be of our plans, that are the plans of Eve, if the Gentiles could remember the secret of the pomegranate, the tree Rimmon, practically revealed by this draw? What would we answer, if they knew again that a pomegranate was the tree of life, the tree of the paradise, that was not allowed to Adam to avoid him to know the secret of life and death? The Gentiles already know that the tree of the science of good and evil was an apple tree, and they have relationed it with the rose, understanding that it treats about a family of plants which count also the almond tree amongst them. They know, then, that in all of them there are different parts of a unique message, of an idea impressed of the Creator One. However, they will never reach to relate the pomegranate with any tree to form the family, because Rimmon is archetype of the creation. On it will be discovered similar elements to all the rest species, but the same could not be derived of any other thing. As Eve contains all them with his form, but he is not contained by anyone. The mission that we will entrust you is related to the pomegranate of the life, but it is specially referred to one of its fruits, the Zephnebina, in which you should inspire to fight against the awful heresy of the house of Tarsis. Yes, priests. Even though the lineage of Tarsis died, there still subsists the effect of their Luciferic acts, from which is not minor the cult to the Virgin of the Grotto. Against that imposture you shall fight immediately, developing the attack according to the instructions that we will give you now. In this moment of the history, that the very Holy has designed for the chosen people, is smiling to us. Soon will be established in Europe the universal synarchy. Then will appear the world government of the chosen people, during which will be manifested, upon the Gentile humanity, the irresistible power of the Messiah, for whom will be offered the fire holocaust. But, much before such wonderful act be fulfilled, I'd say, that in the present days, if it is possible, the order of Melchizedek will raise in the sphere of Spain, a child from the house of Israel gifted with the verb of metatron. He will possess the necessary ekma, to close the doors that the Hyperborean demons have opened, and to open the doors of the heavenly palaces, Ekleth, from Eden. The Kabbalistic name of this supreme priest is Quiblon. Quiblon will be gifted with great power. He will emerge from the knout, and will track the entire Spain, behind the gold that he will offer to them in abundance. Blind, as Perseus, Spain will raise the sword, and will cut 3 heads of Medusa in a shelter, beyond the Tenbrus Sea, in a new Tetris, which path he will show them. Heed, priests, because we are prophesying it. Is the word of Eve, which is sprouting from our lips. I repeat, Quiblon will be sent, from heaven, an ambassador of Eve. And you must know that this region of Huov has been signalized by Melchizedek as the seat of the embassy of Quiblon, as port and breakwater for his magical voyages. Yes, the land where the greatest sacrifice after the Atlantis was committed, the land where the white Atlantans gave birth to their Luciferic plan, destined to predispose the uncreated spirit to outbreak a final battle against the goodness of the Creator One. This land, priests, will be redeemed of its sins, blessed and sanctified by the triple holocaust of Quiblin. For this reason, we let you know, at this time, that you had to occupy the boulder of Saturn. You did it. In fact, O divine Alim, confirmed the great master of the temple, who was still awaiting the explanation about the mystery of the stone of fire. Once received your message, we requested the papal authorization in the same site of the boulder of Saturn. Well, you must know, also, that Rusbal, or boulder of Saturn, is a place consecrated to Bina, the aspect with which Eve is manifested as Great Mother. When Quiblin reaches to that sacred place, Eve will reflect in him the Shekinah, and you will gift him with the verb of mitraton. How many times descended the Shekinah to the earth? 10 times in front of Israel. Hastened to respond the Rabbi Nessie. First, in the Garden of Eden, and they heard the voice of the evil Elohim, walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the evil Elohim, amongst the trees of the garden. Genesis 3:8. Second, to watch the Tower of Babel, and then Eve came down to see the city and the tower that the children of men built. Genesis 11:5. Third, in Sodom, spake Eve, I will go down now, and see whether they have done according to the cry of it which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. Genesis 18:21. Fourth, in the burning bush, then Eve appeared unto him in a flame of fire, out of the midst of a bush. And Moses looked, and behold, the bush burnt with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Exodus 3:2. Fifth, in Egypt, therefore, I come down to Egypt, to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land into a good and large land, into a land that flowed with milk and honey, into the place where lives the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Exodus 3:8. Sixth, over the Mount Sinai, Eve came down upon Mount Sinai, on the peak of the mountain. And Eve called Moses up into the top of the mount. Exodus 19:20. Seventh, on the elders, Eve came down in a cloud, and spoke unto him, and took of the Spirit that was in him, and he gave it unto the 70 elders. As soon as the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied, but then they failed to do it again. Numbers 11:25. Eighth, over the Red Sea, he bowed the heavens, and came down, and dense clouds he left under his feet. 2 Samuel 22:10. Ninth, in the sanctuary of the temple, Eve said unto me, This gate shall be shut. It shall not be opened, and no man shall enter and buy it, because the Eve, God of Israel hath entered and buy it. Therefore it shall be shut. Ezekiel 44:2. 10th, he will come in the age of Gog and Magog. Then Eve shall go forth, and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of the battle of the Atlantis. His feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem, on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave, in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west, and there shall be a very great valley. The half of the mountain shall remove towards the north, and the other half towards the south. And Eve shall be king over all the earth. In that day Eve shall be one, and his name shall be unique. All the land shall be turned as a plain, from Gubak to Rimmon, that's to say, Granada, in the Negev. But Jerusalem shall prevail. Isaiah 14:3. And one time amongst the chosen people, added the abbot of Clairvaux. 11th, on the Messiah. And Jesus, once he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water. And, lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of Eve, descending like a dove, coming upon him. And, lo, a voice from heaven, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I have pleased. Matthew 3:16. Take note then, of the other 2 more times, in which the Shekinah will descend to the earth. Suggested by the 11th, that the abbot has mentioned, is signed with the letter Aleph, 1, which reigns the essence of the air. It was a pneumatic descent, symbolized by the fowl, of the standard of Israel. It means that Christianity constitutes a holocaust of air, for each shadow. The 12th, that now we announce you, will occur in the boulder of Saturn, in Rusbaal, before Quiblin, when Quiblin seek, there the intelligence of the Great Mother Bina. That will be a descent signed by the letter Mem, 13, which expresses the essence of the water. That means, that the discovery of Quiblin will constitute a holocaust of water for Eve, Shaddai. And the 13th, will occur during the world government of the chosen people. Then the Shekinah will descend on the Messiah, before Israel, and the Messiah will be one with Israel, and Israel will be one with the Shekinah, and Israel will be one with Eve, and Israel will be Eve. Blessed be the mystery of Israel. And Israel Shekinah will end as always with all the Gentiles, and with 2/3 of its own blood, propitiating the judgment of Din, of Elohim, Iba, the rigorous judgment of Jbera. And Israel Shekinah will comply the sentence of each Sebarat, which has been already pronounced in heaven. That will be a descent characterized by the letter Sin, 21, that defines the essence of the fire. It means that the sentence of the judgment of Din, the final judgment, will constitute a fire holocaust, for each shadow. The 4 priests attended with boundless interest the words of the immortals, but, who was more impressed, was the great master of the temple, direct responsible of the occupation of Rusbaal, from the convent Our Lady of the La Rabida,